Yes, the Heat was bullied in more ways than one when they lost in Chicago. After the game, LeBron says he had an issue with the refs not calling what he believed to be flagrants. Well, on Thursday, Chicago's Taj Gibson responded, saying, "I think LeBron's just too good of a player to do that." Celtics president Danny Ainge also added that it's embarrassing to see LeBron complaining this way. We welcome back in Jamel Hill. So brief, and now you're here again. Whose side are you on? Is it embarrassing to see LeBron complaining like this?
No, it's not embarrassing, and in a way, it's kind of expected. You know, the one thing that when people like Danny Ainge and other players of a certain era, whenever they comment on today's game, they seem to forget the fact that today's game is not like the game that they played. And a lot of these players, as they're coming up, quite frankly, they aren't used to contact. They're not used to physical basketball, just because that's just not how the game is officiated. So LeBron James, for him to complain about that, I think, Danny Ainge has to understand why he's doing it. And LeBron did not grow up playing the kind of basketball that Danny Ainge played, the kind of basketball that he inflicted on many opponents in the 80s. And so I don't think it's embarrassing. I think it's expected. And it's interesting to me that Danny Ainge, considering what his reputation is, that he would be the one taking this kind of shot at LeBron James. I mean, I know he was an irritant and a different kind of player, but coming from him, this just rings a little hollow, and I'm considering how the Celtics have fallen short against the Heat. It doesn't seem like this is the right time for him to be picking that battle.
Stephen A. made a similar point earlier. Go ahead, Stephen.
Well, actually, it wasn't similar. It was identical. The fact of the matter is, the fact of the matter is that Jamel in her brilliance eloquently stated the obvious, and unfortunately, people like Skip Bayless are going to find a way to poke holes at common sense. And just sheer intelligence. But this is what Jamel and I have to deal with from time to time. It's part of the course. Go ahead, Rainbow Man. Go ahead with the orange shirt, which is lovely, by the way.
I'm an orange man, as in Syracuse. And you know what? I'm now embarrassed for both of you for letting LeBron James off this hook. You are letting him off a hook. Even Taj Gibson said yesterday, LeBron James is better than this. He's better than this. Come on. Seriously? I mean, I get what Jamel says. The game is refereed so much differently now than it was in Danny Ainge's day. But how about the great Derrick Rose? Again, we've missed him this year, but remember how they used to ref him or not ref him? You don't think he took punishment in the lane? And I used to call him the mini LeBron. LeBron takes some physicality in the lane. He gets bounced around. Not enough to my taste, because I think teams, especially in the playoffs now, they need to go a little harder at him physically. But for LeBron James, soon to be a 4-time MVP in this league, the face of the league, after losing his first game in 28, to sit there and whine about, they got too physical with me. Those weren't basketball plays, when clearly they were so far from flagrant that it's laughable. And it's laughable what he was saying, because those were just decent, smart, tough, physical, playoff caliber basketball plays. They weren't cheap shots. They weren't over the line. They certainly weren't flagrant. But seriously, for Kirk Heinrich just to pull LeBron down and say, I'm sorry, I'm going to safely take you down so you don't posterize me. Well, you're going to whine about that? For Taj Gibson to just put a hand on his shoulder just to say, I'm not going to let you dunk on us. You're going to have to shoot your free throws in the fourth quarter of this tight game. And LeBron did miss the first free throw, so it cost him a point. Come on. You're going to let him off that hook and blame Danny Ainge for stating the blatantly, painfully obvious that it's an embarrassment to the league for LeBron to act that way after that loss? Come on, both of you. I have too much respect for both of you to make cases like that for LeBron James.
Well, I think the thing that you keep ignoring is that at 6'8", 250 pounds, LeBron James can inflict far more harm than he will receive. And you keep underestimating that. What if LeBron James just shut up and started knocking people upside their head?
Fine.
What if he started using his physical... Yeah, no, it wouldn't be fine, Skip.
Why not?
Flagrants, technicals,
Well,
injections, all of that stuff. Excuse me, the fact of the matter is that, again, what Jamel Hill alluded to makes sense from the standpoint that the game has changed drastically and dramatically. I told you yesterday when you didn't have on your orange shirt and you were listening better at that particular moment in time that when the game changed, I said blame the league. Point the finger at the league because they're the ones who softened the league up and made the kind of play that LeBron James was alluding to foreign. I liked seeing it. I applaud Chicago for what they did. I hope they do it during the playoffs. I know the Indiana Pacers are going to do it. And if Kenyon Martin stays healthy for the New York Knicks, I have no doubt he's going to do it. I welcome it. But I also don't mind the complaints coming from a LeBron James when you consider the state of affairs that presently exist in the league. The game has changed. Long before he arrived, they wanted it to change because they were saying people like you, Skip, and others didn't want to watch the way that the Knicks with Mason and Oakley and those boys played, the way the bad boy Pistons had played the game of basketball. They had a problem with it. And back then, ironically, people were saying that to some degree it was to protect the Jordans of the world and the Jordans to come, because of the physicality that was thrown in his direction when he was trying to knock off the Pistons. I didn't hear you saying that stuff then.
Yeah, Skip, I mean, you act like that LeBron James is the first great player to ever complain about calls. I mean, he's not.
They all have.
They all have done it at some point.
Thank
you. And Steve, you brought up a great point. Michael Jordan, everybody knows that the league changed once the Pistons started clobbering him in the lane. So would you call Jordan a crybaby?
Wait, hold on.
But time out.
Okay,
you know who complained for Michael?
Who?
Phil.
Wait a
Phil
second.
was the master of the complaint after the game.
Stephen A., you just mentioned Oakley. He just tweeted he's watching, and he wanted you to weigh in on this. He said, watching First Take, Boston got more calls than any team in the history of basketball.
Says Charles Oakley.
Says Charles Oakley.
I'm not going to disagree
Well,
with
you know
him.
what? You know what? A lot of people did feel that way because, again, they were physical, and a lot of times they provoked people retaliating, and those that retaliation was penalized. So Oakley is making a point. I don't know statistically whether he's correct, but from the eye test, he definitely has a point, Charles Oakley. And by the way, Skip, he is qualified to make that statement.
Oh, and I'm not. Wait, how
No,
many times?
I'm not saying that. I
Wait,
wasn't
how
talking
many rings
about
did the
age.
Knicks
What you
win
being all
back then?
sensitive for? I wasn't talking about you.
Asking.
What?
Oh,
What you said?
Very large man.
Basketball, everyone. We are moving on. Tonight, #1